We're going to talk about Brandon and Maor. But Brandon, first of all, you spent 10 days in Israel on Birthright. You went with your two twins, the triplets went together, and so we want to hear all about your experiences and what Israel was like for you.
That's right, Howie. I went to Israel, and you probably don't believe that because I'm still pale as all heck. But trust me, I was there. And let me tell you, it was a life-changing, riveting experience. Now, I went to Israel through something called Birthright, which is something that all Jews, people of Jewish descent, have the ability to do. You have to be, I believe, between the ages of 18 to 25, and with that range, you can go through a different organization, and they'll allow you to go to your free trip to Israel. Now, I need to emphasize free for my fellow Jews here. You know, we like that stuff. It's a very big deal, and not only are you treated well, and you get to go to nice hotels, but you see wonderful, exciting, great sights that probably for a lot of Jews has been talked about, whether that be through temple or Hebrew school, and you really experience that when going to Israel. So again, it's a free trip. You'd have to be crazy not to go. So being that I'm not crazy, I decided to go. And I went, as Howie said, with my brother and my sister. And again, I didn't know what to expect too much. I'm not a very religious person. I just expected to have, a fun time. But to be perfectly honest, Israel changed me. I'll tell you why. I have a nice little list I'm going to run down through. Try to make it fun, so bear with me, people. So the question is, how did I go through Birthright? What organization did I go to? And I went to Hofstra. Hofstra, the school, the university. Now, if you've been following the show, you've known it's no secret that I go to SUNY Westbury. So, why did I go to Hofstra? Simply put it, SUNY Westbury didn't offer it. So, I pretty much took a free ride from Hofstra, and we went. So not only were there people from Hofstra, we were just a small portion of the overall group. We had Hofstra, we had people from Queens College, we had people from California, all coming together. Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream of integration. We were all in one place. So that was really something special. People across the country that you wouldn't normally see, that you interact with. And you really not only connect as people, but as Jews. So that's an instant connection you're going to get with people, whether they be from a totally different background than you. They're still Jews, and you do feel that. You do feel that quite a bit. So we were there for 10 days, and let's start with how the trip actually went. So we had an 8-hour flight to actually Vienna. Don't worry, the movies were good on the plane, so it wasn't that bad. And with that, we had a 2-hour layover. We saw the sights of Austria. By that, I just mean the airport, but it was a nice airport. And then after that, we went on the plane for another 3 hours, and we made our way to the great state, the Holy Land of Israel. Now, in Israel, we made our way to the bus, where we exchanged our money for shekels, which is the Hebrew Israeli currency. It looks like fake money, but trust me, it's real. Now, with that, we were going to go to a place called, I have written down here, a hotel. That was, no, not hotel, my bad. The kibbutz, which is our living arrangement. Now, they said on the bus it was going to be about an hour and a half. You know what that means in Israeli time, Howie? An hour and a half?
No clue.
It means like around 3 to 4 hours of the bus. I expected an hour and a half, and trust me, it wasn't pleasant. Just the hope the dream of Israel and the kibbutz kept me alive for that experience. So once actually there, we got settled down, and the kibbutz itself was described as a sort of hotel arrangement, but pretty much it was sleepaway camp, if I'm being honest. There's like little cabin areas, there's a dining hall, you're outside, it's pretty much sleepaway camp. But I've been to sleepaway camp, it's like a better sleepaway camp. So with that, we started our Israeli journey. And after we got settled in our nice little comfy kibbutz, we started adventuring. And the first place we went to is a ancient little city called Safat, not Fat, Safat. And pretty much it looked like something out of Aladdin, like a marketplace out of Aladdin. It was very surreal, with like a lot of different merchants getting the most stereotypical Jewish items you could find. You got the menorahs, the mezuzahs, the yarmulkes with knockoff SpongeBob on them. You got a lot of that fine little Jewish stuff. They served shawarma, falafel, the food was just amazing. And so it has a lot of religious significance. So for people who are more religious, it definitely was a surreal moment for a lot of people. After that, the next day we celebrated Shabbat, which for those unacquainted, Shabbat's like the Jewish day of rest. So you couldn't really be on your phones, but between you and me, I snuck a few phone calls, but it's between us, okay?
Okay.
So we did that. We had a nice little service and a more relaxing day. But once we got our bearings, once we were able to breathe during Shabbat, things got a little more intense once we finished our little Shabbat activities. Now, the first place we went to after Safat was Mount Bental, which overlooks the Syrian border. So you're pretty much in another country, Israel, looking at another country, Syria, which is just crazy. There was hail everywhere, so it wasn't the most ideal situations, but the fact that we were there, seeing it, was definitely insane. And you'd think that's a pretty good way to end the day, looking over Syria. But we continue. The day moves on. We next go on a jeep ride along the dirt roads of the Golan. And with that, it was kind of terrifying because the jeep was really close to the mountainside. Oh, by the way, we're driving up a mountain on a jeep. So I pretty much became religious after that, praying to whichever God would listen because I was afraid of death. But you know, I'm in one piece. This is not Ghost Brandon. This is the real Brandon speaking. We made it. Then we saw a nice mountain side and river sights. Again, more religious connotations, but I'm not religious, so I'm not getting into it. That was fun. And again, you'd think we'd stop there. But nay, we continue, because that's what Birthright is all about. You keep doing more and more. You have only 10 days to take in all the Israeli sites, so you better believe we continue going at it and at it. And our next stop, which is probably, spoilers, my favorite thing that we did, was called the Tel Dan Nature Reserve. And it was the most beautiful trail, this nature trail overlooking the mountains of Israel, trees, the wildlife, the waterfalls. Again, you just have to be there to experience it. For me, that's where I start getting spiritual. When I'm surrounded by nature and good people, that's when I start feeling that Israeli connection. That's when it started kicking for me. And for people going on Birthright, it's going to happen in different places. For some people, it's going to be going to Jerusalem. For other people, it's taking a look at the stars. Other times, it's going to Shabbat and praying to God. There's different ways that you're going to feel more spiritual, but regardless, you are going to get that feeling going to Birthright. It's really nothing else, and it's different from if you're just normally taking a trip there. Birthright, being surrounded by people of a very similar age, sort of similar circumstances, yet different, and coming together for Judaism and going to Israel, it's really something else. So if we continue on, again, Tel Dan Nature Reserve, have to recommend. after that, we got away from the wildlife and we partied it up at Tel Aviv. And I know, Maor, you like Tel Aviv quite a bit. Can you tell us a little bit about Tel Aviv?
Okay, Tel Aviv is basically like going into Manhattan. Basically, it's a Middle Eastern version of New York. Tel Aviv is roughly 22.3 minutes from Yerushalayim, which is known as Jerusalem. What I like about the Tel Aviv experience, it's very edgy. It's basically like going to New York, but in the Middle East.
New York, I would say Jew York.
Yeah, New York.
But yeah, it was a lot of fun there at Tel Aviv. Let's see what I have here. We did something called the Rainbow Tours, where we had a tour guide talk to us about the LGBTQ struggle and the rights that people of that gained in Israel. Unless you're homophobic, it's a very good, interesting way to learn about a different asset of Israel. Now, after that, we, not gonna lie, we clubbed, we partied a bit. Funny thing, there was a truck with the most Hasidic Jews. I think they were probably like a horde of rabbis, and they started clubbing with us. They gave us pamphlets. I don't know what they were doing, if it was some sort of Jewish cult, but I think at that point I decided to become an Israeli citizen. All jokes aside, it was great there. And moving on, let's talk about the other living arrangements. We had the kibbutz, as I said, which was sleepaway camp, which was nice. But after that, we went to a solid hotel, and it was nice. So I stayed with a Californian, and get this, an Israeli soldier. Now, when I heard that there were going to be Israeli soldiers, and I was forced to interact with them, I thought I'd be with this 300-pound behemoth named Boris, who would force me to do push-ups. I'm not talking about the good 25, I'm talking about the solid 150 that a typical Boris-type character would make you do. Not pleasant, especially when you're on vacation. But, so when we picked them up, we stopped in like this field area, very strange. I thought they'd come flying from a helicopter or something in a field. And you see these people running around in Boy Scout uniforms. It turns out that it's the IDF, it's the Israeli army. And you know what? I didn't encounter one Boris. It was very interesting because the Israeli soldiers, they stayed with us for quite a few days of our Israeli trip. So they got to learn about our culture, we shared about our culture, and we really connected there. There was one Israeli soldier that I really connected with. His name is Ron. So you better believe there was a lot of Harry Potter jokes. I was like his Hermione or his Harry Potter. We were always together. It was really cute. And we were just relating out of very simple things. We were talking about like different shows we watch, comparing cultures, talking about memes. He was even really into dark humor. Could you imagine going to Israel surrounded by Jews, and you got Jews like the Israeli soldiers making Holocaust jokes? Can you believe that? You would think that they wouldn't be into that, but they totally were. By the way, 2 days after that, we went to the Holocaust Museum, and it was very sad, but but it was cool realizing that, hey, they're just people. It's a different culture, but you really learn so much by staying with these soldiers. So anyway, all the way back to Tel Aviv, I stayed with Ron the soldier, and another friend of mine from California. We had a good time. And then after that, after people were recovering from their hangovers from that awesome club at Tel Aviv, you had to get over it fast, because that morning we made our way to a little desert journey. We went to the Birthright tours, where we learned about more Arabic culture, actually. So not only with Birthright are you learning about Judaism, but you're learning about Israel as a whole, everything that surrounds it. By the way, they made the best tea ever. I don't know what it is, I just know it's the best. So if anyone knows what it is, please, my email is thebrandonbrand@gmail.com. Please let me know what that tea was. It was amazing. And with that, we moved on, and we stayed in something called Bedouin tents, where we actually camped out in a desert. Crazy, I know. And that's what we did to really learn about that culture. And there was one very special, magical moment that came from this. That night when we were in the Bedouin tents, we made our way in the middle of the desert. The tour guide reassured us that the coyotes and the hyenas won't get us because we're in a group. So that was nice. We stayed in a group. Then soon after, like idiots, we separated to really not only take in the desert, but take in sort of the stars and sort of have a spiritual moment, whether that be with God, if you believe, or with taking a look back at your life. It's just something we had to do, and I know it sounds a little nuts being alone in a desert, but really for us Jews together, it was a very spiritual moment, and it was one of the things I really look back on positively. And yeah, that was nice. But it continues. The next morning, we went camel riding. And I was surprised to learn that camels sound very similar to Chewbacca. They are apparently vegetarians, but one of them tried to bite off one of the soldiers. So I was learning a lot that day about camels and how they're not like what they seem. By the way, we were riding the camels on Hump Day, a Wednesday, so that was kind of perfect. After that, we made our way to a place called Mount Masada, a big, large, spiritual mountain, and that was really cool, except the fact that the wind gusts were so high and there weren't many railings, and we experienced the threat of death quite a few times on that mountain, but I think that was the thrill of it, so that was a lot of fun. And it continues. Right after that, we went to the Dead Sea, which, fun fact, it's only dead if you die in it. Fun fact. But the Dead Sea, in all seriousness, the salt content is so high, it's probably more salt than water if I'm being honest, you will end up completely floating. You don't have to tread water, you don't have to swim, you just float. So it's the American dream, being surrounded by salt and not doing anything and lying down. And that's what I did. And it was definitely something crazy because I remember growing up, going to Hebrew school, learning about the Dead Sea. I'm like, oh, that's cool. But actually experiencing it, oh, it was a lot cooler. So that was something else. Let's see, got a little bit more. We're gonna go to the other side here. After that, we made our way to Jerusalem, where we stayed for a few days, and that's where we had the best hotel. I wasn't lying when I said that Birthright's gonna treat you well. We went to a fancy hotel with the kosherest of foods and just a great living arrangement. So that was cool. And in Jerusalem, for a lot of people, this is where people got the most spiritual, most religious. Again, if you don't follow that lifestyle, that's fine, but it's still great, at least historically, to see these things. We saw, there was a Jesus connection where we saw where Jesus' Last Supper took place, sort of, that area. Now, Jesus was one of us, so we'll let that little part of the tour slide. We also saw King David's tomb, which is really cool. We saw the Dome of the Rock, which, again, for Muslims is a really big deal. We went in a sewer, and we saw the Teenage Jewish Ninja Turtles. That was far out, man, cowabunga. We saw a really old bath. And this is a random thing, but I just have to put it out there. The water fountain water was to die for. I call it holy water. We were in Jerusalem. It was the coldest, freshest water. Poland Spring, eat your heart out. I don't know, something about that Jerusalem water fountain water. My golly. And probably the biggest part of Jerusalem was going to the Kotel, the Western Wall, where people could pray to, put little notes in, and put in the wall. And for people, for a lot of Jews, this is where they started breaking down, where they felt the greatest connection to God. But me, not being too religious, I found it to be a comedian's wet dream, because you saw a big wall, and you better believe the Trump jokes were just coming out of me like diarrhea of the mouth. So I think even if you hate Trump, if you love Trump, you can come together to make Trump jokes at the wall, because it's a big, beautiful wall, and Trump... let's not put politics into this. Okay, so we're getting towards the end of our little spiritual tour. After Jerusalem, we made our way to some more emotional Jewish connections. We went to Yad Vashem Memorial Complex, which is the Holocaust Museum, and for me personally, it touched me quite a bit. I was very emotional there, and you really see the negative effects and the lives lost at the Holocaust, in all seriousness there. And I believe the next day we went to Mount Herzl, which is a burial site for IDF soldiers who lost their lives fighting for Israel. So you really feel an emotional connection, if nothing else, when you're there at this part of the Israel journey. So not only are you getting your fun, you're getting your emotions. It's like the perfect movie where it hits all the right chords. That was the Israel trip. And just a bit more, we went to different marketplaces in Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, and it was really great experiencing the nightlife and everything. And if I'm just gonna sum it up a bit, what Israel meant to me, I got lasting connections with people that some of them I may never see again, but I know they're gonna be right here in the heart. I gained an appreciation for my culture, my Jewish culture. I felt a belonging which I don't think I've ever truly felt in regards to Judaism. So really, even if you aren't religious, if you just want that free trip, take the trip. Don't be an idiot. It's a free trip to Israel. They treat you well, some of the best sights you'll ever see, and you will get something out of it. I promise you. Maor, what do you have to say?
I have to say that like I said, Israel it's a place for Judaism. It's a place for all religion, but for me personally, like I love all religions, but in retrospect, you have to understand that Jewish started that land. It was before the Palestinian movement, before Palestine. It was Yehuda, meaning land of Judah, was the first kingdom back thousands of years ago. And a lot of people may say, I'm from Palestine, I'm from this. I'm like, first of all, you're from Yehuda. That's the original founder, the first kingdom of Israel. Like I said, like there's a lot of great things in Israel. My family is actually really big in Israel. When you want to go to Jerusalem, my grandmother's, I think her uncle, Shimon Agranat, he has a very big statue in the Parliament of Israel. My grandmother's father was one of the people that fought to start the foundation of Israel. His name was Avraham Agranat, and what I liked about Israel, it's like I said, it's Jewish. It's all about exploring the richness of Yerushalayim, which is Jerusalem. Like how he went to, Brandon went to the kibbutz, and he went to Tzfat, Mitzada, which is Masada. I mean, it's a lot of, like, I personally love about it. Like, I want to give a shout out, like, to my organization, Israeli Experts. That's one of the organizations that are going to go to Israel. Like I said, we went to Yerushalayim, we went to Tveria, we went to Golan, which is the Golan Heights, which is right north of Israel. It's the northern part of Israel. We also went to Ashdod, Ashkelon, and we stayed in, like I said, amazing hotels. Like we stayed in Ramada, which is Ramada. It's a U.S. brand. We also stayed at Leonardo, which is like a Hilton, but for Israel. What I really most likely about it, like if you, like you said, you want to experience the Dead Sea, you can technically go experience the Dead Sea at home. You don't have to travel. There are stuff that's from the Dead Sea. Like I used to work in the summer. It's called Yam HaMelach. It's the Dead Sea products. You can get them. You can go to the local mall, like Premier, Supreme, and Gratier. They're the brands that sell the sea salt from Israel. Another thing is the armies. The armies there, they open their arms up to you like their brothers. Like you had Ron, which he says it's Ron. I had Guy, Shir, and Avital. I speak the language because I speak the Hebrew at home. But like I'm saying that everywhere you should go explore Israel, from Eilat, Yerushalayim, Tel Aviv, Rishon LeZion, Cholon, which is the land of children, and it's a city in Israel. You can also go to Galilee, which I think he went also. They also do the Galilee mountains. And it's all about richness, the vibe, the culture, everything. I mean, Israel is not just a state. It's a country of big family. It's 7 million of us Israelis. Like, I'm an Israeli citizen due to my mom and my grandmother. So I have dual citizenship. I'm American and Israeli. So if I were you, don't forget, there's one way to go to Israel. Rich knows this company. It's called El Al. Visit them. It's elal.co.il for Israel. But if you want the US websites, it's elal.com.
I just want to say just one final thing about this. We were also able to have a b'nai mitzvah and a naming ceremony, getting a Hebrew name. So that's something else to keep in mind. I actually changed my name from Shmuel to Shmuel Melech, and Melech means king. So you better believe, you better bow down to me.
All right, we thank Brandon and Maor for electing on Israel, and we're glad that Brandon had a life-changing experience in Israel. So thank you, Brandon and Maor. Thank you.
To visit Israel, don't forget there's one way to fly, elal.com or elal.co.il, and I'm going to finish with my segment saying if you want to do it Hebrew, you can say El Al Achi B'Bayit Ba'olam, and what does that mean? El Al, home away from home.
Okay, thank you very much, Maor.